Tighten up.
Yep.
I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body. And that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
RX Television on rxmuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave. You know the deal. Your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo, whatever's on your mind, bodybuilding, outside of bodybuilding. Of course, we now sit 2 weeks outside of the Olympia week. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, crazy to think in 2 weeks, half of our crew is going to be out in Vegas, setting up shop, setting up camp to prepare the big weekend. And, you know, it's funny because the last 2 years, obviously in Orlando, and maybe one of the more underserved storylines heading into this Olympia, that it is the return, not only to Vegas, obviously it was in Vegas for the last 18 years, but a return to the Vegas Strip, and many, many reasons for excitement as we prepare for Olympia weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's actually not in that Orleans hotel anymore, although, you know, I have to say the Orleans hotel was convenient, but it was not glamorous. And I think that took away some of the luster of the Olympia, especially since it had been at the Mandalay Bay for so many years. And that's a kind of like and at the time when it was at the Mandalay, it was brand new. So it was really kind of cool. So now having it where it is now at the Venetian, and that's a gorgeous hotel. It just makes it that much, you know, like it adds a level of making it VIP for the athletes. Like, hey, we're at the biggest venue in Las Vegas here, and it's, you know, we feel like we're the best in the world. And so I think that's something that we have to thank Dan Solomon, and he really, you know, spearheaded that, and along with obviously Jake Wood. And I think the athletes should be very thankful, because I'm sure it was a lot more costly for them in that venue. And that just goes to show you that they both care about the fact that putting on a great show for the best athletes in the world is the most important thing. And Jake has always, since he's taken over the Olympia and purchased it from AMI, he's always put the athletes first. I mean, he held the Olympia during COVID. I mean, he lost a ton of money on that because there were no sponsors. So I think we have a good person at the helm of the Olympia. Dan's doing a great job running it. So I'm excited to see what happens. It's a great lineup this year. I won't be there this year, but hopefully next year everything will be on better terms for me as far as being able to walk, you know, properly and all that stuff. And I will be there. I'll have no excuses, right? So you're going to be holding down the fort with Lee Priest and Chris Aceto and King Kamali, and we got a great crew out there.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. Obviously, anything and everything that we're going to see and cover on Olympia weekend will be dropping on our YouTube channel. We'll be dropping on Instagram, official_RX Muscle. Let's go to the questions. The first 2 questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, why is it so hard to coach oneself? Did you ever, I mean, I know over the course of your career, for the most part, you coach yourself. Did you ever really have a coach, I guess you would write down on a piece of paper? In general, did it ever get frustrating coaching yourself?
Yeah, I had a coach. I'd be lying if I didn't. You know, when I first started competing, I started doing my own diet, and I realized very quickly that I really didn't know what I was doing. I understood about eating a lot of protein, but I didn't really understand how to like get the body into a state where you're going to lose, you know, body fat. So this guy Vinny Carvelli helped me first when I was a natural bodybuilder and got me in really good shape. I just didn't have that much muscle back then. I think it was 168 pounds I weighed in at. But I was shredded. Even all the guys backstage said, "You don't have enough muscle, but you're the most shredded guy here." So that was a compliment for that first show. And then a guy by the name of Peter Neff helped me, who was a disciple of Bob Grushkin. So basically it was the Grushkin technique I learned through Peter Neff. And then from him, I went to my friend Doug Wentz, who I was training with, and he had also been a Grushkin guy. I didn't even know that Peter Neff was, but so the systems were pretty similar when I went to Doug, except Peter Neff was a natural bodybuilder. And then when I started using gear, my friend Doug obviously took gear. So he was able to advise me on that. So yeah, those guys were my first three coaches really. And then after Doug, I used him for a couple of years because we would train together and he was helping me. And then once I got the system down, I kind of started tweaking it and modifying it myself because new compounds came around, growth hormone and insulin and all that stuff. So I started, and then I kind of owned it. It takes a while before you know what you're doing. Once I became like a master of it, then I kind of took it to the next level and became that guy. So there really was no one who could help me after that because I was using stuff and doing things that no one was doing. So I was basically working with a lot of people. There was no gurus and coaches, but guys would be at my house all the time and I was doing their diets for free. And we were all figuring things out like on each other basically. And that's how it came about. And I just, like I said, I would have a second set of eyes and my friend Doug, he would take a look at me and say, hey, you know what, you're eating too much food. You're not losing, yes, you're ripped, but you could be more ripped, that kind of thing. And, I didn't want to hear that because, obviously you always think you know more than everyone else, but I would listen because I'm not a guy who doesn't listen to other people's insights. So that toward the last maybe 4 or 5 years of my career, I knew how my body worked at that point, and I really was able to do it myself. But that takes a long time to get to that point. So you definitely need other eyes on you. It's very hard to make decisions, especially if you don't have balance in your life and you're an extremist. You're an idiot for doing your own diet because you will always do things too extreme. 96 nationals, 96 USA, for instance. I went out to California 2 weeks early before the show, and what did I do? I was training 3 times a day. Did I need to? No, I was in shape 8 weeks out, but I didn't realize that because, I was like, I got to be leaner. I got to be tighter. And I was just going crazy because, what does everyone do in Venice, California? They go work out. They go to Gold's all day long. And so was I. And I figured I'll eat a little bit more, but you can never eat. Once you start overtraining, it doesn't matter how much food you eat. It's not going to help you. And I overtrained for that show. I came in 10 pounds too light. I took like 6th at the show. I was really upset because I thought that was going to be my year. Then I came back 8 weeks later. It was the Nationals, and I placed 4th. That was the first time placing in a national pro qualifier. That was the year Jay Cutler won. Tom Prince was 2nd, Orville Burke 3rd, and me 4th. So I kind of redeemed myself, and I came in 10 pounds heavier than the USA. And that's when I figured out I need a lot more fat in my diet. I can't do too much cardio because my body just doesn't need it. It makes me look, smaller. So at a certain point in your career, you guys might be able to coach yourself, but my advice is always have a second set of eyes. And early on, get yourself a coach that you can work with. I have a lot of people who come to me that are science guys. They want to know why they're doing everything. And those people really work well with me because I can explain everything scientifically why I'm doing it. I'm not just going to tell you do this because I said so. And so I have a very good contingency of people I work with. There are other people that they don't even care why they do. They just want to be told what to do. And they want someone there holding their hand the whole time. And there's other coaches that do that really well. So there's a coach for everyone out there, but I would recommend, especially when you're first getting started, definitely get a coach.
Second question, again, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app now. You just did a video on this next topic about a week ago. The topic is melanotan. Now, unfortunately, like a lot of things, there becomes a TikTok challenge and things get taken to the extreme and then certain things get painted in a negative light. So melanotan, obviously, the merits have been questioned because people are now snorting it up their nose and there's a social media challenge. The question is, what are your observations of it? Do you think it can be too risky or cause skin cancer? I've read a lot of different things, but I want to know your actual experience with it or observations on people who've used it.
First of all, I don't think it causes skin cancer. That's like saying growth hormone causes cancer. No, if you have cancer, it's going to make it grow faster. Melanotan doesn't cause cancer. It just causes the skin cells to lay down more pigment. Sometimes, well, most of the times you're going to see any like little beauty mark you have or any little darkness or something that's a little darker than your normal skin color is going to get even darker on the stuff. Now, the good thing is it's reversible. So once you stop it, it regresses. I used it for about maybe 2 or 3 years just because I wasn't even competing. I was done competing already, but I just wanted to be tan, And I realized if you take too much of it, you kind of, your lips start getting too dark and it doesn't look right. And you get like a purplish tinge. I didn't get that bad. Mike Zeltzer, who watches this, he's my good friend. He was purple. I told him at the Olympia one year he was purple. Stop using the melanotan. He was doing too much of it. But you could definitely get a little too dark on it. And you don't get darker. You just get, like I said, you start seeing like the parts of your bodies that shouldn't be dark get dark, like your lips and stuff like that. And it doesn't look good. So that's the only side effect I saw that was something that cosmetically didn't look good. Now, you could get, if you take too much of it, you can get nauseous from it. It'll make you a little nauseous. It does make your face feel flushed when you first take it. So my recommendation always has been take it right before bed, and less is better, even if it takes you a little longer to get darker, because it might take an extra week to get the color you want. It's not like, we're not talking about months. It's not like muscle growth. So like I said, if you take a 10 milligram bottle and you add 2 mLs of water and you take 5 units on an insulin pen, every night for a week or two until you get the color you want, and then do it once a week to maintain, you're probably not going to have any side effects. You do have to watch out for high blood pressure because it does raise your blood pressure a little bit. And some people more than others. As long as your blood pressure is in the normal range, don't worry about it. Not everyone gets that effect. It can happen, and that's something you should know. But as far as skin cancer goes, it's not going to cause skin cancer. I did notice. I think I got a little like raised beauty mark on my hand, and because it was raised, I'm a nutcase when it comes to like anything skin cancer-ish or any cancer in that general. So I had it removed. I went to the dermatologist. They kind of just flipped it off and they biopsied it. There was nothing there, but it was definitely raised. It wasn't, and I didn't have it before. So it might make you more prone to get, potentially get a new mole or a new raised, pigment spot. I don't know. Maybe it was there. I don't remember ever seeing it. So that's why, like I said, I got it removed, but I don't know anyone who's ever had a problem in terms of like any kind of skin issues where on a permanent basis, any darkened pigment that's on your body will regress when you stop it. So to me, it's pretty safe.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us there, handle is official_RX muscle. Again, in 2 weeks, we're going to be in Vegas to cover the Olympia weekend. Everything we see, everyone we talk to, we'll be documenting everything on our story, on our feed. So if you're not already following us there, official_RX muscle. Again, if you're not already following us on YouTube, we ask that you subscribe below, hit the notification bell. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button. We're going to be covering the show wall to wall, so you're not going to want to miss out. Anything we have between now and then with our preview segments, and then, of course, everything on the ground there is going to be on our YouTube channel. Fit Forever. We do get questions. This is a species nutrition related question. We do get a lot of questions from our customers abroad regarding shipping, regarding distribution. This specifically for Canada. Do we have distribution for Canada? And how can they contact them, or how can they purchase from that distributor?
We had a Canadian distributor, but then Canada changed the rules on importation. So we don't have that distributor anymore. They don't have the ability to bring it in, in large amounts. We do do a lot of sales to Canada from our speciesnutrition.com website, especially on the sale. We sold a lot to Canada because when we do discounts, it kind of can offset some of the shipping costs to Canada. So if anyone from Canada does want Species products, you can just order it right off speciesnutrition.com, and we have no problem shipping them. Obviously, we can't give you guys free shipping on orders over $100 like we do in the continental US because it's a lot more expensive there. We'll lose money, but you can absolutely order to Canada. We have no problem shipping. And I wanted to just mention, Sid, also the 2 questions we did prior to this were from the Dave Palumbo Experience app, which is my app that you can download at the Android store or the iTunes store, depending on what phone you have. And it's basically Dave Palumbo as your coach in your pocket. All my writings that I've ever done, all my videos are up in one place. We put up a workout every week. I do a private Q&A for all the members on the app. It's a video Q&A, just like I'm doing now, except it's an extra one based on the questions they ask. Plus, you can ask a question whenever you want on the app, and I'll answer it with the question posted in an open forum so everyone sees everyone's questions and everyone's answers. It's a great learning tool. Great to buy someone for a stocking stuffer for the holidays. If you're looking for a gift for a bodybuilder, I promise you that they're very hard to buy gifts for. Trust me, I know. I was a bodybuilder for many years. but that's something that you can absolutely get them for $29 a month. They'll love you for life, because it's going to be a learning experience that's constantly evolving every single month. We put new content every week. We put new content up. So check that out.
That leads us perfectly into our next question. It's from Sean Crowley's. Who would win in a fight, peak Arnold or peak Dorian?
I don't know if Arnold was a fighter or not. I think that Dorian, I know, did some martial arts and stuff like that. So I would, it's just funny, the segue. Someone sent me a video. It was like an animated, like video game-ish thing. It was from Mortal Kombat. It was Terminator versus RoboCop. If you guys get a chance to watch it on YouTube, it's really, really funny. And the RoboCop beats Terminator. So I was a little upset about that, but I think the Terminator would have won, but it's pretty funny. I don't know. I think Dorian probably would have won. He seems a little bit more into fighting than Arnold. Arnold looks more like a lover than a fighter to me.
I don't know if you're watching the World Cup. Somebody wants to know who you think is going to win the World Cup final. If you have a guess, you want to venture a guess. Congratulations, Lee Priest, by the way. Australia advanced to the round of 16, the knockout round. Yeah.
I'm not really up on my World Cup, Sid. So to be honest with you, I would have to say that I'm probably rooting for Australia just because it's kind of like a wild card. And I love Australia. Every time I go, I love the countryside there. So I'd love to see them win. I don't know if they're going to or not. It's
who else is advancing? The USA.
Yeah. Well, obviously, USA. I don't think the men have ever won, have they?
They have never won the World Cup, no. Yeah. But
women,
obviously, yeah.
I have a personal friend who's involved in, and I knew about the World Cup. Chris Aceto and I knew about the World Cup in Qatar for years now, because we have a personal friend who's a big wig over there. And from what I understand, I mean, they spent an enormous, retarded amount of money on putting those stadiums together. I mean, these things have air conditionings in the seats, and they're outdoor stadiums. What they did over there is breathtaking, what they did over in that country to make this World Cup. I only wish they would hold the Olympia there. Chris and I are trying to twist some arms over there to see if we can get the Olympia over there, because they would talk about rolling out the red carpet.
Yeah.
The prize money would absolutely be $1 million, no doubt about it, for first place. That's where I'd love to see it, because they love soccer and they love bodybuilding in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So they will spare no expense, like we do for football and baseball in this country. That's what they do in that country for soccer and bodybuilding. So if that could ever happen, in my wildest dreams, I would love to see that one day happen there.
Just seeing what I've seen in my limited time in bodybuilding, I would venture a guess that if there were to ever be an Olympia outside of the United States, it would be in Dubai, and it would be a very much ballyhooed Olympia and Olympia weekend. Let's go to Benjamin Hamza. It's a very good question, only because, again, we mentioned the fact that we're going to be at the Olympia in 2 weeks, and we're always brainstorming different content ideas, right? Like, obviously, we do the Meet the Olympia interviews, we cover the press conference, we do obviously prejudging finals and everything in between. One thing that we've talked about in the past, and maybe we'll do it this time around, maybe give you a behind the scenes look. Obviously, again, Chris Aceto works with so many open class, classic physique, 212 bodybuilders. I mean, he has, competitors going in and out of his hotel room for check-ins. Perhaps we'll give you a glimpse maybe of, them doing their check-ins with him, going through their posing routine.
Yeah, just show up in Chris's room. That's all you got to do. And you can film all day there.
So, but the question is, and it's a very good question. And I know we did this kind of an episode after Sean Roden won the Olympia, rest in peace. The question is, will you and Chris ever do a contest prep episode? I understand it'll be general info without us fine tuning on individuals, but it would be nice to get some pointers. So how about that in terms of a collaboration, as far as yours and Chris, a dedicated episode for contest prep?
I mean, we've done stuff like that before, but it's tough because, like he said, every person's a little different. And so you treat every athlete a little different. If you take my Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course, you'll see how I mechanistically, structure everything on how to create diets for pre-contest, off-season, for men versus women, and that's all the mechanics you really need there. Chris and I can talk contest prep, but it's going to be very general. We can say, well, for this guy, he gave this food. I always ask him, how many grams of carbs? Is this a guy a big carb eater? Is he a low carb eater? Everyone's a little different. And so that's what makes a great coach. It's not the starting program that you give people. And I always have to stress this to people, because people think, when they sign up with a coach, they base the coach his whole entire, experience on the first day that they get that program. If that program doesn't look too crazy to them, it doesn't look so complicated that only that coach could have written it, then they have a nervous breakdown. Some people, they don't realize that the program is just the starting point. It's where you go with the program, how things get moved around so that you eventually peak for the show and look your absolute best on contest day. And that's what makes a good coach, not where the starting point is. Because look, there's a million. How many different variations of diets are out there? We eat 6 meals a day as a man. You eat, 30 to 50 grams of protein, depending on how big you are. You can eat a certain amount of carbs and a certain amount of fat. And no one debates the protein part. It's the fat and protein that might be shifted around depending on what the person's metabolism is. And that's the starting point. So everyone's diet is pretty much, if you get a 250-pound guy, you get another 250-pound guy, they got to start pretty much at the same point. But how their body responds, this guy's got a fast metabolism, he needs more food. This guy's got a slow metabolism, he needs less carbs. Otherwise, he's not going to lose weight. And that's contest prep. It's not a very, very sophisticated science. It's coupled with education, coupled with experience. So I can give you education through the Guru course that I teach. Experience comes with going out there and actually being a coach. And like I told you, when I had my first 3 coaches, that was probably the first 5 years of my competitive career. So after 5 years, I felt like I owned it. I had the experience now to do my own contest prep. And that's what you'll find. There's probably about a 3 to 5 year, experience thing that you have to kind of just learn. It's kind of like, you would do like an internship with someone. Your coach is your mentor, and you're doing an internship with them, and you're learning how he manipulates variables so that you can then take that and own it yourself if that's something you want to do. And then you come to someone like me to learn the science of what you're doing. And when you combine those 2 variables together, you can become a very good coach.
Let's go to Carlos at NYC. If a competitor has a visible bad bump from site injection, should they be penalized in the scoring no matter who it is?
I guess you have to make the qualification. Is it taking away or detracting from their physique? In other words, a little bump or a lump that's, a tiny little, looks like a big pimple or something like that is not necessarily detracting. I've seen guys who have little moles or lipomas, and they'll win shows and stuff like that. That's not detracting. But if you have this big blob on your shoulder that's oozing blood, or you have something on your butt that's sticking out, 4 inches off the surface, yes, you have to. Iris Kyle had something on her butt one year. I don't know what happened, but she went from winning, she had won a couple of Olympias and Arnold Classics, and she wound up placing 6th. They put her out of the, or out of 7th. They moved her right out of the top 5 places because it just didn't look good, and they didn't want her in that top 5 or top 6, whatever it was at the time, because it was almost embarrassing, in a sense. And I'm sure she was embarrassed by it too, but she did it because she's a champion. She doesn't quit, and it never happened again. I always tell people, if you're prone to getting lumps and bumps and you're not sure, just go off the injectables and stick with orals the last, couple of days, so that there's nothing goes wrong at the last minute. Nothing's good. You're not losing any muscle in 3 or 4 days. And so, yes, in a sense, if it's detraction and it looks, ridiculous, you have to mark them down no matter who they are. If it's not ridiculous and it's kind of like, well, I can, it's not that obvious, I think they can let it and give you a pass on it.
Let's go to Ivan Banny and asks, Boldenone is supposed to be a relatively mild anabolic, but some people experience really bad sides and just can't use it. In some cases, it drops estrogen levels really low. Do you know why that happens?
Yeah, first of all, EQ in my experience doesn't drop estrogen levels. All right. I don't know what people's problems. I've had people tell me the injection site, it hurts so much. And to be honest with you, equipoise, which is Boldenone, doesn't cause pain on injection site. So when people tell me that, immediately I think they're not really using equipoise, they're using testosterone propionate, and they don't know it. And a lot of times if they ask me that, I tell them, buy a Roy test from DavePalumbo.com, test your compounds. I don't know why you didn't do this anyway, and they invariably do it, and it always comes back test propionate. That's a given. Now, other people have complained about other different issues, but a lot of times it's because what they're taking is not what they think they're taking. We live in a completely different world than we did back in the 90s and early 2000s. You cannot trust what you're taking anymore because it's not being made by a lab. It's being made by someone in their house. This doesn't mean they're not doing a good job making it, but these people say to themselves, if I put test propionate in this bottle instead of equipoise, okay, my profit is 10 times what it was before. And for people who are not bodybuilders and who don't give a shit and are just doing this for money, that's a lot more appealing because a lot of these people are going to say, you know what, most people don't know the difference anyway. They're going to take the stuff, they're going to grow from testosterone, and they're going to think, hey, this is great equipoise. I can't believe how strong it is. The problem occurs when you have a woman who thinks she's taking Anavar and she's taking Dianabol. And what I normally see is these women contact me, I'm getting so much acne and I feel bloated and I'm not eating carbs. I don't understand what's going on. And I'm like, did you test your Anavar? Well, it comes from a really good source. I had one person, this is a true story. I swear to you, he's a great coach. And he told me, Dave, and he showed me the packaging with the little troches you put under your tongue. They look amazing, these things. And they were Anavar. And the girls that were using them were getting side effects from it. And I'm like, did you test them? He goes, they're from a wellness clinic. I'm like, just do me a favor, humor me, test them. Tested them, came back Dianabol. So this turns out the clinic really wasn't a legitimate clinic. They were portraying themselves as a clinic, but they were selling everything to anyone, and that should have been his tip-off right off the bat. And they made a really good-looking product. I don't even know how they made it. It was so professional looking and packaged and everything, but it was not the real stuff. And people do not care out there. They do terrible things because they don't care about anyone but their dollars that they're making. And you got to be careful. And so the easy solution is test all your drugs. When you test them, and then you don't have to worry about it. And you know what? I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. I'll keep saying it over and over. Yes, I sell Roy test on my Dave Palumbo website. I don't make it. My friend Bill Llewellyn makes it. The reason I sell it is because people need it. And I'm better at being a mouthpiece for people to go get it than he is. That's why I sell more of it than he does, because people go to my website and they listen to what I say, because this is something that you have to do in today's day and age. If I was competing in this day and age, I would test everything I made. Everything I made and everything that I used if I made anything. That's a little Freudian slip. Never made my own gear, though, although I would probably be tempted in today's day and age to do it because it's very hard to get good stuff, out there. And but even if you are making your own gear, you might not even realize that the powders that you're importing from China, they might not be good either. So test everything. It doesn't hurt. It's a cheap test. Test it and see if it's real.
Let's go to Ivan Beninets. Let's take this from Mark Costanzo first. Deca suppressing my appetite unless I run it with EQ. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I love these hypotheticals. I've never heard of Deca suppressing appetite. Matter of fact, everyone usually says the Deca opens up your appetite. Now, EQ definitely makes you hungry. There's no doubt about that. Why Deca would make him not be hungry, I don't know. Once again, test your products, because test propionate in a lot of people. In me, when I would take it, it would give me huge welts and pain on injection site, and it would kill my appetite because it would give me like flu-like symptoms almost. And who the hell wants to eat when they have the flu, right? So usually if you take 2 Tylenol, by the way, when you have those symptoms, it goes away because it removes the prostaglandin production, which is what's causing that. So if you're noticing that, maybe a little pain on injection site, maybe, you have like this like low grade fluidy feeling, you might not be using Deca. You might be using test propionate. So check it out. I'm telling you, it happens so much. I would say 50% of the gear out there, I would venture to say, is not what people think it is. And that's not to say it's fake, because if there's something in there, it's not fake. It's just not the right compound. So check your gear.
We do get this question here and there, but again, new audiences, transient audiences, good to have a refresher. AJ the Kid, what to do if gear causes acne?
Well, in people who are prone, it will definitely cause acne, Sid, and that's pretty well known. I mean, I used to break out from gear and everything like that, and that's you know, everyone's body, they have an enzyme system that will convert some of your testosterone into estrogen. That's called the aromatase enzyme system. And some of your testosterone will convert into DHT, or dihydrotestosterone, using 5-alpha reductase enzyme. So it seems to me over the years, just from observing, that you're usually an estrogen converter or a DHT converter. You're not usually both. Some people are. I'm a very high DHT converter, and I'm a very lower estrogen converter. Although I had gynecomastia really quickly, but I had a lot of, I think just genetically, I had big, glands down there. So that, because once I got the glands taken, I had no other estrogenic side effects. So I'm a very high DHT converter. And that was confirmed when I had my DNA tested. And a lot of people have been asking me, because I talked about DNA in one of the past shows. You can buy the DNA testing kits on my DavePalumbo.com website as well. You send them, you swab your cheek, you send them out, and then the Canadian company will call you and set up an appointment. They'll give you all your results and go over them with you. But that's a really good thing to find out, because they will tell you if you're a high estrogen or high DHT converter, genetically speaking. But you can tell just by going for blood work. I'm a high DHT converter. And when you convert a lot of the testosterone you take when you're injecting it into DHT, and back in the day, we only blocked the estrogen pathway. We never blocked DHT. No one knew any better. So that would make it even worse. When I would take an aromatase inhibitor, I broke out worse, because now more can convert to DHT, less is going to estrogen. So what I found was that in my body, no matter what I took, I couldn't, the acne never, like nothing really helped it other than taking antibiotics to prevent myself from breaking out. And I didn't want to do that. When I started getting hair thinning, and by I never lost the hair on my head till I was 30. So obviously that was my time clock went off. But all that DHT probably did not help. And so when I went on finasteride for hair loss, I noticed I didn't break out anymore. And then I said, it's the DHT. Of course, that's making me break out. Why didn't I think of that before? But no one really wants to take like a DHT blocker like finasteride if you don't really need it, because it's extreme, And now in a case like mine, where I'm a very high DHT converter, I have no side effects on it because it makes me normal. In a person who doesn't convert that much, they could kill your sex drive, and it could affect other things. So what I suggest you do is, I made a product called Testalize purposely with a natural DHT blocker and a very highly refined saw palmetto extract we have in there. And that does blunt the production of DHT. So you take some of the DHT, but not all of it. And I have like 15-year-old girls taking it because they have bad acne, and it cures their acne. I have women who are losing hair thinning. They take it and they're like, holy mackerel, I cannot believe my hair. Chris Aceto started taking it and his hair thickened out. He said his hair was thinning. He didn't even believe it. I said, just try a bottle. And he started taking it, and he's like, holy mackerel, it's like my hair was revitalized. So DHT can definitely cause hair thinning. It can definitely cause acne breakouts. It can also cause prostate enlargement. So these are things, first line of defense I always tell people is try Testalize 3 pills twice a day. If that does the trick, you don't need to take a prescription drug. If it doesn't and you're still experiencing problems, then you might want to go to the next level and try finasteride.
Ivan Beninets, will taking 2 IU of GH during the PCT and off period have any positive effect on how you look as far as fullness and hardness, even without anabolics? And is it worth the money, or should you just wait till you're back on cycle?
I liked staying on a little bit of GH when I would go off, just because, for recovery purposes. Because when I would go off, I was off. I mean, I was on nothing. I did my HCG and Clomid the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then that was it. And then I would stay off 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks sometimes after that. And so a little GH definitely helps. And when I'm talking like 1.5 to 2 IUs a day. 2 IUs is fine if you can afford it. That's great. If you can't afford it and you need to really save your money for when you're on cycle, then do that. I would rather see if some guys can afford it to take it all year round if they want. So 2 IUs is not going to give you any side effects. It's not really going to make you too insulin resistant, where insulin's not going to work properly because it's low enough in dose. But yet you will notice you recover better, and you will keep a bit of pump, and you will actually notice, at least I did, that I wasn't like feeling as fatigued, and my strength kind of stayed a little higher. So it's more of a subtle effect. But I notice when I'm on GH and nothing else, more so than when I'm on other drugs and GH. So GH is a very subtle effect, but it's more obvious when you're on no other anabolics, because you're like, oh, I don't feel like I'm on nothing, at least, I have guys that I work with who they'll stay on a little GH, and I'll put them on a long-acting insulin because their blood sugars are maybe a little high in the morning, and they actually put muscle on while they're on it. I'm amazed, but sometimes people will focus on eating better when they're off gear because they're so worried they're going to lose muscle that they actually put muscle on. Not a lot, but some. So yeah, I have no problem with that. Is it worth the money? That's up to you. That's a matter of, if you're not going to pay your mortgage at your house or your car insurance because you're buying GH, then you can't afford it, and then I wouldn't do it. But if you can swing it, I think it's absolutely worth it.
Take a couple more questions. Surrey Lane, how much amino spike protein is still out there? Any particular indicators to let you know to steer clear of, i.e. added creatine, taurine, etc.?
Yeah, most people protein spike with branched chain amino acids. You'll see added to the mix. So if you're reading the ingredient list on your whey isolate and it says glutamine, isoleucine, leucine, valine, any of the amino acids, if you see it in the list, they're not putting it in there to make the product better. You know why? Because one scoop of whey isolate has 11,000 milligrams of branched chain amino acids already in there. That's the makeup of the protein. So we don't need another 5,000 milligrams of leucine in there, or isoleucine, or glutamine. The reason they're putting that in there is because they're padding it. In other words, they want the protein to be high, and they don't want to use whey isolate because it's way more expensive. So they put the actual free-form amino, which is very cheap because they're made from digesting human hair cells, basically. So that's what's called protein spiking. They're putting amino acids into the product, and on the protein value, you can't tell because you don't know where the protein's coming from. But the ingredient list, they must put on that ingredient list what's in there. If you see added amino acids in there, that's not benefiting you. They're saving money and they're trying to trick you. Stay away.
Take one more from Gringo Espanol. Do natural guys, quote, get better with time? Or in the same sense, we always hear you say enhanced competitive bodybuilders do. I've often heard your reference how even top bodybuilders today in their early 20s are going to be completely different and more freaky and looking into their late 30s. Wondering if that's possible for someone like me, to whatever extent as a natural can, who has been training 12 years, works out really hard, 32 years old. Have I hit my peak, and can I continue to get even better?
I feel that with natural bodybuilding, there's a ceiling that you reach on how much muscle you can put on naturally. Okay, how long it takes to get to that ceiling and what your ceiling is different in every person. I mean, Kai Green was a great natural bodybuilder. Sean Roden was a great natural bodybuilder. Ronnie Coleman was a great natural bodybuilder. But not many people have that kind of genetic potential to get to that size. If they had 10 lifetimes, they couldn't get that big naturally, okay? What happens, though, is the longer you train, whether it be on gear or naturally, your muscles get a better look, what we call muscle maturity. They get a 3D look. They get more graininess. They get more grooves in them. And it just looks more refined. So there's a lot of older, natural bodybuilders that have great physiques. They're not big, they're not huge, but they look impressive. And you'd be like, that guy's only 176 pounds. He looks like he's 200 because his muscles are round and grooved. And a lot of these guys diet really hard. They get striated glutes, and you can get lean on naturally. I was a crazy shredded bodybuilder, naturally lean. I just wasn't that big. So if you have a nice structure and you could hold, and the muscles flow well on you, you'll be a good natural bodybuilder. That's why Roden was so good, because he had a beautiful structure. So he wasn't that big, he was a light heavyweight. Think about it, but he was impressive because he got lean and he had really nice flow to his body. If you don't have a good shape, you'll never be a good natural bodybuilder. I was a horrible natural bodybuilder because I don't have a good natural structure. I have good genetics for getting really, really lean and putting on a decent amount of muscle, but I needed a lot of muscle in my body to compensate for some of the structural issues that I had in terms of I'm not that wide on top. So for some guys, they'll always look better naturally because of the fact that they had that structure, whereas other guys don't. To answer the question, you won't grow forever as a natural bodybuilder, but you will get better quality-wise.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, if you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. And as always, we appreciate all of your support. More pre-Olympia coverage on deck over the course of the next week and a half. Keep it locked to rxmuscle.com.